Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating and, frankly, kind of dramatic what-if scenario drawn from a recent nutritional analysis. Imagine for a second just clearing out your entire fridge and pantry. Imagine relying exclusively on eggs for your protein for 30 straight days. No chicken, no beef, no lentils, no protein shakes. Literally nothing but eggs.
So, that brings us to the big, high-stakes question. If you actually did this, what would happen to your body? For decades, we've been told to be terrified of the egg. The common assumption is that if you ate eggs for every single meal, your arteries would just fill up with cholesterol and you'd inevitably suffer a heart attack or a stroke.
Well, looking at the source material, the conclusion is actually a huge shocker. You wouldn't die of a heart attack. In fact, your overall health and digestion might actually get a lot better. Okay, let's dive into this and explore exactly how the science supports what sounds like a pretty wild claim.
Section 1. The cholesterol controversy.
This right here is probably the biggest area of confusion for most of us. The source points out that across 6 major clinical trials, researchers found eggs didn't increase heart disease risk in healthy people at all. So why the terrible reputation? Well, the source argues that practically all the negative data linking eggs to health issues comes from observational studies. You know, those questionnaire-based studies where people try to guess what they ate for breakfast 3 months ago? The source states these types of studies just aren't very credible, arguing they're highly susceptible to political slant or bias to make the data fit a certain narrative. But when you look at controlled clinical data, it tells a totally different story.
And this brilliantly illustrates why eggs don't just wreck your heart. They actually come packaged with their very own antidotes. Yes, eggs have cholesterol, but they also contain lecithin, which actively counters it. They're absolutely loaded with choline, which is a key ingredient in the bile salts your body uses to break down cholesterol. Plus, they've got vitamin B3, which is considered one of the best natural defenses against cholesterol issues out there. Nature basically packaged the cholesterol with the exact tools your body needs to process it safely.
Section 2. Ranking protein bioavailability.
You see, it's not just about how many grams of protein you're eating, it's about how well your body can actually use it. Based on the analysis, there's a distinct hierarchy of protein quality. At the very top, essentially tied with human breast milk, are eggs. They have a complete amino acid profile, which means your body absorbs them incredibly efficiently with practically zero waste. Meat comes in second, dairy is third, and way down at the bottom is plant-based protein, which the source notes has relatively poor bioavailability. Furthermore, the source makes the claim that the mainstream push for a purely plant-based diet is driven way more by politics than by real, objective nutritional science.
So, why does getting high-quality, bioavailable protein matter so much? Well, we usually think of protein as just being for bodybuilders trying to get big in the gym, but it's actually the foundational building block for almost everything. Your body uses it to repair enzymes, construct metabolic pathways, rebuild your skin and bones, and even power your immune system. When you eat a highly bioavailable protein like an egg, you're handing your body the premium materials it needs to repair practically every single system you have.
Section 3. The hidden nutritional arsenal.
If we look past just the protein, what else is hiding inside an egg? Turns out, an egg is essentially a natural multivitamin. Sure, it doesn't have vitamin C, but it is absolutely jam-packed with a full spectrum of B vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, plus K1 and K2 right alongside essential omega-3 fatty acids. You're getting this incredibly dense package of vital fats and vitamins in just a couple of bites.
But it gets even more specific. Take sphingomyelin. I know, it sounds like intense scientific jargon, but its actual job is super practical. Sphingomyelin is a compound found in eggs that genuinely helps prevent plaquing in your vascular system. Just think about the irony of that for a second. The exact food people actively avoid because they're terrified it'll clog their arteries actually contains a targeted compound that works to keep those arteries clear.
Then there's choline. We touched on it earlier as a cholesterol antidote, but its real job description is way bigger than that. Choline is literally essential for your neurological health and keeping your brain healthy. Plus, if you don't get enough choline, you are at a significantly higher risk of developing a fatty liver. Eating eggs directly delivers the exact nutrients you need to stave off that dangerous condition. And your eyes get a massive benefit too, thanks to lutein and zeaxanthin. These are 2 specific compounds in eggs that support the macula, which is the back part of your eye responsible for your central vision. You can kind of think of them as internal natural sunglasses. They actually help filter out harmful UV radiation and blue light from your screens, actively working to prevent age-related macular degeneration. To wrap up this whole nutritional arsenal, we've got phospholipids. This is a combination of lipids and phosphorus that plays a huge role in your cellular health. It's a fantastic natural anti-inflammatory and is completely fundamental when it comes to building and repairing your cell membranes. When you eat an egg, you're literally consuming the architecture your cells use to rebuild themselves.
Section 4. Egg yolk versus egg white.
For decades, fitness culture has hyped up the egg white as this ultimate clean protein, while telling everyone to just throw the yolk in the trash. Now, what's really interesting about this is how the analysis completely shatters that fitness myth. If we look at the actual numbers, comparing 100 grams of yolk to 100 grams of egg white, the yolk packs significantly more protein. We're talking 16.4 grams in the yolk compared to just 10.8 grams in the white. By weight, the yolk is vastly more protein-dense, which completely turns that popular narrative on its head.
And because the yolk has all those dense micronutrients we just talked about, it's incredibly effective at fending off sarcopenia. If you're not familiar, sarcopenia is a pretty serious age-related condition where your body just starts losing muscle mass as you get older. The dense nutrition packed into the yolk is essentially your armor against that natural decline.
In fact, the source highlights a clinical finding that is a huge deal for anyone who works out. Studies actually prove that consuming the whole egg delivers way better post-exercise repair and muscle building than just eating egg whites alone. Seriously, if you're throwing away the yolk to build muscle, you are quite literally throwing away your best results.
Finally, Section 5. Maximizing the benefits.
So how do we actually take all this science and put it into practice? First off, we've got to talk about that classic movie trope of drinking a glass of raw eggs before a morning run. The source explains this is actually a terrible idea. Raw eggs contain these things called protease inhibitors, which basically block the enzyme your body needs to break down the protein, so you aren't even getting the full benefit. Plus, chugging raw eggs can actually give you a biotin deficiency. But the fix is easy. Just applying heat by cooking the egg completely destroys those inhibitors, which ensures your body can fully utilize all that great protein.
Based on the analysis, the absolute ideal preparation is actually over easy. By cooking the white, you eliminate those pesky protease inhibitors we just talked about. But by leaving the yolk runny, you preserve all the delicate, heat-sensitive nutrients packed inside the yolk. Sure, scrambled or hard-boiled are still fantastic for you, but over easy is the gold standard if you want to maximize the nutritional value.
And the bonus benefits of making eggs a staple are pretty remarkable. Assuming you don't have an allergy, they're extremely digestible compared to other heavy proteins out there. The source also points to data suggesting certain compounds in eggs might even have anti-cancer effects, along with immunomodulation properties. That basically means they literally help regulate and balance out your immune system.
But here is the critical number you absolutely have to remember: 7. There are exactly 7 grams of protein in a single average egg. This means the standard dietary advice of eating, less than 2 eggs a day is mathematically useless if eggs are your main protein source. 14 grams of protein is simply nowhere near enough to satisfy your body's daily repair requirements.
So the crucial point is this: if you want to harness the massive health benefits of this superfood, you've got to eat enough of them. Which leaves us with this final question to consider today. Based on your specific body size, your age, and your own personal muscle goals, how many eggs per meal do you actually need to be eating to hit your real daily protein target? Think about it, run the numbers for yourself, and you might just end up rethinking your entire daily diet.